This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
You're going to run into problems, and how you deal with those problems is going to be what makes or breaks the business.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. I'm Kevin Dubois. Before we get started today, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. First, we have our YouTube channel out there, so all the podcasts are on there, and we're going to be start making new content for that as well. We actually already have one tool review on there, which is our first cut at that. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And second, SEMA is right around the corner, and we will be teaching the Essentials of Operating a Shop class there, as well as the PRI show. Be sure to sign up for one of those if you haven't ever taken the class. It will really help you learn how to run your shop better, more efficiently, and more profitable. Last, we have our webpage, as I mentioned last time as well. We have job openings on there, so if you have any, if you're looking for a job, we actually already have a job posted up there as of the last week. And if you are looking to hire somebody, we can post up those openings that you have on there. So that's on doitforaliving.net. Today, our guest is Jud Massingill from Samtech. Samtech is a School of Automotive Machinists for people who are not familiar with the acronym. And it's an educational school, like a tech school for learning how to machine, and specifically engines for performance cars. So, Jud, how are you doing today?
Great. And you, Kevin?
I'm doing great. I actually am just slowing down from working on a car this morning, so now I get a chance to sit down in the air conditioning, so that's good.
That's good every once in a while.
Yeah. So, Jud, why don't we go ahead and get started? Why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself, your business, bring us back to when you got involved with cars or machining, and kind of give us a background of yourself.
Kevin, I was born and raised here in Houston. I met my wife, Linda, at the University of Houston in the early 70s. We've been married since then. She actually does all the administrative duties, and it was her ideal to actually bring the school about. We started out hot rodding on the street and running at the old Porter drag strip here in Houston. And then by the mid-'70s, I got into running circle track out at the old Meyer Speedway circle track. I had USA Racing Engines, who's still in business here in Houston today, doing my machine work back then. And I started assembling engines in the garage, and then that turned into assembling other racers' engines, So I was working at the time as a salesman for a production rebuilder. I actually learned a lot there. They didn't build performance engines, but just volume rebuilds. But there was a lot to be learned there about the engine and how to work on them, et cetera, et cetera. But we were hot rodders, from the time we were both teenagers. She had a '69 SS Camaro, and I had a '69 Z28 Camaro. And we go out to Porter and run the cars, and never really at that time did much NHRA drag racing. We had two AHRA tracks, one in Dallas and one in San Antonio, and they had more of a hot rod class than the factory classes like NHRA did. And so, we could take the heads off and do a knock the pockets out, 3-angle valve job, and raise the compression and stuff, and run in the classes there. Had a lot of fun doing that. Then one of them went away, and the circle track stuff out at Meyer Speedway, it was a half-mile asphalt track. It intrigued me, and so I went out there and watched some with a couple of guys I knew that was doing it. And I was doing a little work for them, in the garage at home. And I decided I wanted to do that, go out there and run these circle track cars. We went out there, I think the year was about 77 or something like that. And I did well right off the bat with it. Building my own engine and everything. At the time, I was still working, I had my day job at the production rebuilder. And we ended up, setting a track record and winning a championship and stuff like that, and got noticed by a local oil man by the name of Curtis Payne. And he came to me and wanted to know if I wanted to go to work for him and build a engine shop just for his cars to run NASCAR. And I told him I was certainly interested. but I was going to go into business myself someday. And he said, well, that's okay. If you want to come down and help me put this thing together and work there part-time or something, if we can do it part-time, we'll take a shot at that. And to make a long story short, he had basically, an unlimited budget, and we bought the best of everything there was. And he ran 2 years, and we did well. We could qualify and finish in the middle of the pack. That was for a small team. We thought it was a great thing. We had a good time doing it. And then he got a bunch of business going in different places and everything, and decided he didn't want the machine shop. He was going to get through racing and everything. And he's offered me to sell me everything for it. And that's what really pushed the big button from going to the garage behind the house into, renting a space and putting the equipment in there. Did that, hired a couple of guys, that one of them that I knew, Greg Good from the production rebuilding place, and another very sharp young man. And we started, it was tough at first, as, any business is going to be. We worked a lot of hours, and cracked cylinder heads, whatever came in, race engines, it didn't make any difference. We just had to make the payments on everything. But I tell you, for someone that wants to work hard, I think owning a business, there's headaches, there's no doubt. But, that's what we did for, let's see, that would have been from about for at least, I guess, 8 or 9 years. What got us to the school was that Lynn and I were sitting at a restaurant one time, and I was having dinner, and I was griping about, it's so hard to get help. We were up to about maybe 6 or 7 employees by that time. And she says, there needs to be a school that, you could find graduates from and do something like that. And I said, well, there's nothing like that, I can assure you. And she says, well, why don't we build one? Okay. And I tell you, if it wasn't for her, the school would have never existed, because it was, 2.5 years of paperwork, it was an incredible lot of work, and she did 99% of it while I worked in the shop. But anyway, we got it going, got approved and everything. Like I said, it was time consuming. And today we're really, really happy with it. Both our children work in the business today, and we're growing every day. And for me, it's really like going to Disneyland every morning.
So you're both enjoying it. It's not a job. It's a passion.
It really, we're very fortunate, that we went into a business that we both did. She's a big hot rodder. She's actually a member of the 200-mile-an-hour club from the Texas Mile down in Beeville, cool. I believe it is. Yeah, she's a gearhead also, and she does take care of all the day-to-day, administrative duties, I call them, Yeah. And what I do is I just lecture in the morning about 5 hours a day, 4 days a week, and it sure beats working for a living. I should say it's a lot of hours, but when you enjoy what you're doing, the hours go quick.
Right, exactly. So your wife is instrumental in all of this, and you kind of picked one in a million of the women who enjoy racing in this country. I guess there's very, very few of them. And not only that, she's a go-getter, it sounds like.
Oh, yes. No, she has way more energy than I do, always has. I mean, she just has to have 4 things going at any time, micromanages everything. She loves what she does also, her and Brian and Kim are involved in the marketing, the recruiting, all that stuff. And I do my lecturing, in the mornings, and then in the afternoons, I'm very lucky that, I go out there and we're dynoing on the chassis dyno, the engine dyno, whatever. We're putting a new combination together for Brian's Copo, whatever there is, so very, very, I like going to work every day. I can't see myself retiring anytime soon.
Okay. And so you when you started, you said you were going to University of Houston. Did you finish school?
I did. Actually, it's a long-term project. I actually started there in 1969, and I graduated, and I will tell you, about 1983. Okay, I just took, I went to courses during the summer,
okay,
in the evening and stuff. I had some in the morning that I would work around, And so I was enrolled there a long time, but I did get my degree. I think it was 83, 84.
And what's the degree in?
My degree is actually in sociology.
Oh, okay.
I started out in engineering. I moved to business. And then I realized if I was going into business, I could hire, business people if I needed them. But I said, I need to understand people.
Uh-huh.
And so that's how I actually got into sociology. Learned, as my wife said, I learned a lot about, how to work with people, but I just don't apply it.
Yeah, I've taken a sociology class, and it was immensely interesting to me, too. I mean, I really enjoyed learning how other people interact and looking at social trends and that sort of information. So
Absolutely.
It's interesting that, you kind of picked that path, but you're a machinist, so, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Self-taught. I just, I said, well, I can teach myself to do this. And I did. I knew I was going to have to owning my own place. I was going to have to deal with the public, right? And I just said, I don't really know much about people. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And I didn't really plan on getting my degree in that, but it became so interesting to me, that I just kept going. And all of a sudden, I actually have much more hours than my degree is, because I just, any courses that I wanted to take, I would just take.
Oh, okay. So you were there just for the education, not necessarily for the piece of paper.
Right. The piece of paper made me no difference. I did get it, and I'm proud of that, but, that wasn't what it was about.
Interesting. Okay, so you really learned how to do the machining from work experience, and you just kind of kept evolving into racing, and then you took that into teaching from all the experience you've got racing and just building engines, essentially, right?
That's true. Yeah, just it was a long migration, whatever you want to relate it to, and it just kept getting. I enjoyed it more and more. The more I learned, the more I enjoyed it. And, there were just, when I was 24, 25, I thought I knew everything there was to know about the internal combustion engine. By the time I was 35, I knew I didn't know anything, and so you just have to work hard and, a lot of trial and error, a lot of, in business and in building the engines, of course.
Mm-hmm. Do you think of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the definition of an entrepreneur, is someone that starts a business. I guess I would look at it, you're going to have to take the risk, okay? And if you take the risk, you make a profit if everything works out right. So if that's what an entrepreneur is, I guess you could call me that.
It sounds like you're in this more because of passion, not because you're out to start businesses, though, right? I mean,
absolutely. I was very fortunate that my passion turned into a very good business.
Is your wife the same way as you? She
yes.
Okay.
Oh, she just, I mean, we'll be wanting to go somewhere, and she'll just, another hour, another 30 minutes, and she goes 90 to nothing all day, all night, All
right. Has location played a role in your guys' success?
Well, as far as if we went back to building engines, obviously being in a large city like Houston, is lucrative because you have so much market there. Mm-hmm. With the school, I mean, again, our local graduates probably only make up, I would say, no more than 20% of our, student population. They come from literally all over the world. I mean, not the United States, but the world. We have them from the Philippines and, of course, from Saudi, a lot from there, Canada, Mexico, South America, 2 or 3 countries down there. Quite a few from Australia, I might add also. So they find us, okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So location really hasn't done much.
Okay. And you said you have your kids working with you as well, right? So Brian is the contact who had messaged me about working together on, getting this podcast going, and he's your son, right?
That is my son. That's correct.
And what is he doing with Samtech?
Basically, now he does drive the Copo, one of our drag cars, but he does the marketing. He's on top of that. We have a marketing company that helps us out on some stuff, but he runs everything in-house here. as far as all the publicity and, what's going on. And he set up the contract with NHRA to sponsor the Copos drag packs and Cobra Jets in their 4 or 5 race series they have. He puts all that together. My daughter is Kim. She's here also. What she basically does is handle the students themselves. Okay, getting here, working with the recruiters and everything, and then doing the resumes and keep in contact with employers that need help.
Okay, so it really is an all-in-one family ordeal. Everybody's involved in some aspect of the business. That
would sum it up well.
And it really sounds like you guys have thought out your roles as well. It's not just everybody kind of doing a little bit of something. They have well-defined roles within the business.
We do. Now, obviously, in any small business like that, you'll wear more than one cap, and if somebody's behind, everybody pitches in to do that. But it works out well. I do my lecturing and teaching. Linda does the day-to-day operations, and Brian takes care of the marketing, and Kim takes care of the students, and, they're getting jobs when they graduate from here.
Okay. Have you ever doubted yourself and think, if this doesn't work, what are you going to do? And how do you overcome that feeling?
I'm going to tell you, being married to my wife, you can't have any doubt. Just get it done. I'll tell you that right now.
So she's really the motivator on that. She makes you do it, makes you finish what you say you're going to start. Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you explain to us the worst experience you've had in business?
Wow. Kevin, we've not had anything really that's unbelievable, being in business, for 30 whatever years. I'll tell you what, and it's a minor, people wish they had problems like this, but as we expand, dealing with the city of Houston and permits and, all of that stuff, every time it comes up, I realize that we're in a large, large city, and, you just have to deal with it. So we're getting used to it now. We're trying to expand right now again. And, we're getting more used to it through the years, but it's just, I guess people that do it every day, it's not a big deal, but we've been very fortunate, that nothing really, really no bad experiences. I can't think of anything. I guess I'm lucky that I can say that.
Well, let's talk about the dealings with the city. And you actually said when you first got started that you had to spend, seemed like 2 years getting all the paperwork ready. What exactly is required of a school for the city?
Well, now that paperwork wasn't with the city. Almost nothing with the city of Houston. That's actually the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. Yeah, that was, I think it was 2.5 years before it was actually finalized. You have to hire, these consultants, and they come in and they look at this and they do that and they report this. Very long, drawn out affair. All kind of, from every square footage you're going to have to, who the credentials for the people that are going to work for you. All of that has to be approved by them. It goes through an accrediting commission that, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what city they're in, but, somewhere up by Washington, D.C. And they handle it. Then they give it to the Department of Education. The Department of Education says yes, no, whatever. That's time consuming. And then along with that, you have to be reaccredited every 1 to 6 years. And I'll say this tactfully as I can. The shakier your school is, the more often you get inspected. It can be every year. It can be as bad as every 6 months. We are on the longest, reign that we can be on, 6 years. That when your students are happy, they're getting jobs, they're paying their student loans back and everything. They come in our case, they only come every 6 years. They bring in about 5 people from different entities up and around Washington and stuff, and come in, teachers, administrators. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I don't deal with it. Linda does, but they come in and go through all your books, and then they interview every single student in the school. And then they come through with It takes they go back and it takes 4 or 5 months, something like that, and then they call back and with findings. They call them findings, okay?
Okay.
And we've been very fortunate the last 15 years. We've not had any findings. If you have no findings, then they don't come back for another 6 years. I'd also like to say that the last 2, we have been by the Accrediting Commission, a National School of Excellence.
Okay.
Less than 1% of all vocational schools ever attain that level, and we've done it the last 2 inspections, which would be 12 years.
Excellent. And that sounds like rating is really driven by your students giving you good scores when they get interviewed by the accrediting people.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. They're at least 70% of it. Now they do look at your finances and make sure that, you have the proper equipment that you say you do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things they're here for a week. There'll be usually 4 to 5 people, and they're here for 5 working days.
Okay. And to be accredited gives you the ability to call yourself a school, or, you have the .edu on your webpage. Is that the reasoning
Absolutely.
for that? Okay.
Right. You can open, I don't know you can open a school very small for a small number of people without being accredited.
Okay.
But you cannot be accredited unless you're accredited by the Department of Education, you cannot give student loans or anything like that.
Okay. And I was going to say, it sounds like you're also able to get like government loans for students to attend or whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
We're at the top of the list. We're a military-friendly school. That takes a lot of work to get that. Yeah, the actual military, they have a sanctioning body that approves that or not, and they go through how many veterans have been there, did they like it, did they get a job, and after so many years, you can be approved by them as what they call a military-friendly school. It allows you to go on the bases. I don't know the particulars of it,
Okay.
but we're very proud to be a member of that.
Awesome. What's something you're doing right now that has you fired up?
Well, I stay fired up every day, but the new factory Showdown stuff that NHRA is doing is taking off big. We're the national sponsor of it. Now, it's only 4 races a year. We're looking at expanding next year. That's up to NHRA, of course. But we're getting a good following. It's attracting a lot of attention with the new Copos, drag packs. The Cobra Jets also, I'm sorry, I forgot those. That's a big thing that we're messing with, now. Different engines, different combinations, some blowers, some naturally aspirated. And we're right now, we just got back from the Engine Masters Challenge. We're still pumped up over that. We're kind of known as naturally aspirated persons, although we're building a twin turbo Camaro right now for next year. To go on the hot rod drag week. The things like that keep us, there's something going on around here all the time.
Okay.
I guess right now, we came back from the Engine Masters Challenge. We won one class, running up in another one. A lot of smart guys up there. We really enjoy going up there. And what you do is it just does away with the car and the driver. Just here's the rules, build the engine, we put it on the dyno, and whoever makes the most average power wins. So we're very proud of that. It gives us a lot of exposure. And right now, new to us is our EFI, electronic fuel injection course, which we're on our 2nd or 3rd class, something like that. And that's one of the things we're building a new building for that, and wow, we're just we knew it was going to be something special, but we're really happy about it. We have 3 instructors working on this thing, all of them very I don't know what the word would be. Let's just say they really know their subject, and that's a lot of fun right now. We do when it's a new course like that, we do learn as we go. Let's be honest, and everybody's having a great time. And we like the electronic fuel injection is the thing right now. So, you have to do it.
And that kind of ties in with the drag racing, as some of the classes have started to allow EFI, not just carbureted engines, right? And that's kind of how this is kind of evolving for you guys as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. The whole world's going that way. One of the things right now that fascinates me is these self-learning EFIs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, you need to know how to wire, hook up, follow diagrams and stuff, and then start the engine up. And wow, this thing just looks at the air-fuel ratios and starts tuning itself. Really some neat, stuff going on right now.
Okay, and you guys are heavily involved in drag racing, it sounds like, from all the racing. Is that just as a passion, or do you guys do it for the Samtech business? Like, are you teaching students how to build engines and then go racing them? Is that what you're doing?
That's it. In other words, what we do, a lot of schools, most of them are mechanic schools, but they'll sponsor a race car, okay? We don't sponsor race cars. We have our own, okay? My own Camaro runs 8.0s at 172 miles an hour on 10.5-inch tires, naturally aspirated. The Copo that Brian drives is a 427, LS engine, naturally aspirated, one single throttle body. It's been 890s at 150 miles an hour on 9-inch tires. These are two of the fastest cars in their classes in the country. Okay, Brian, as a matter of fact, just qualified number 1 at the NHRA Dallas Nationals last week, okay, and won his class there. So, we do a lot of drag racing, but the big difference is we don't sponsor the cars. We have about, Kevin, I guess 6 to 7 cars that we build engines for. And most of them do have Samtech on the car somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't sponsor them. We build the engines at the very least. And some of them, we handle the whole car.
Okay. So are your students building new engines for it every year? Is that kind of like, or do you build multiple? I'm not, you'll have to kind of explain how often you're doing this.
Yeah, no. Well, see, we'll freshen the motors, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, depending on which class it is.
Okay.
And we build new combinations during the year. And another thing that we do it's a lot of fun is all the students, okay, can build their own engine while they're here. Anything they can afford to buy the parts for, they can build. We can,
cool.
We put it on the engine dyno. If it's in the car, we put it on the chassis dyno. And a lot of the large companies do give us discounts on parts. Obviously they want us to tell the students about them, right?
Right.
Well, when we're doing these student projects, we actually lose money on every one they do because of the paperwork to keep up with the parts and the billing and everything. But they pay the exact invoice as it comes in the door. Okay. So they can build an engine, I won't say for less than, the labor is free, so that's completely free. But the parts, we probably get a 30 or 40% discount on almost everything we use. So they can build them a really nice engine for a lot less money than they could.
Yep, and it's all about them learning. It's not about how cheaply they can build the engine, right?
Right.
That's
no,
the goal.
It allows them to build a nicer project is what the money part does. But, it's like, it's like a football team or something, when that engine, fires up on the dyno and that thing's running good and makes good power, them and all their friends, and the whole school's all pumped up, it becomes like a team deal. It's really an awesome deal. We like doing it.
Cool. And I would really say probably from like the late 90s into the 2000s is really when import racing started to get big. Is that really something you guys do much of, or is it mostly V8 American engines?
Yeah, I would say that we are obviously right now the LS's, the LS series engines are off the chart, but we always keep about 25% of our school is Ford, and we do have one Ford drag car that we run. But the V8s, I would say, are at least 70-80% of what's worked on around here. But there's always 1 or 2 4-cylinder Hondas. Most of them are turbocharged, and they can make some serious power. There is no doubt about that, with a nice turbo system on them. So they're just air pumps to us.
Yeah.
It doesn't make us any difference. But our student body, I'd say it's 75% V8s.
And that is driven largely by where they're going to be employed by, which sounds like drag racing and NASCAR, which is exactly what you're teaching, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take a quick break a second. Owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested in improving operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. So, Jud, why don't you go ahead and tell us about Samtech? How big is the space you're in? Do you guys rent it or do you own it? And you said you're expanding. Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Sure. We're about 30,000 square feet now, and every single inch is used up. We're actually in a neighborhood, and we just keep buying the homes around us, and we bulldoze them down, make parking lots, whatever we have to do. And right now, we have plans. We're basically going to double our square footage. The new building that we're working on right now that we hope gets started here in the next couple of months, that's going to be about 30,000 more feet. And we've owned here since, wow, I'm going to tell you 87, 88, something. It was an oil field business and here before we got here. And, when the boom fell back in the 80s, we bought it for, quite a good sum, let's say. And we just kept adding on to it and adding on to it. We're on Antoine Drive, and we go all the way to the street behind us. Well, now we go across the street behind us. And we own the lot and both houses on the south side of the property. And so we're going to bulldoze both of those and put the new large building there.
And you said earlier that you're dealing with the city, and that sounds like this is your issue with the city, is trying to get permits to build that much more building, huh?
Absolutely. And I will tell you that our contractor that we've decided on, he has a very good relationship with downtown Houston, and that was one of the reasons we chose him. So he can deal with it. And we did the other ones on our own, okay? Don't want to do one this large. Now we're talking about retention ponds and, fire systems. And so we're going to let him handle all that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think one of our other interviews, we've talked with a guy who built a shop, and the city didn't want to let him even use it or move it. So he was out all the time and effort that went into that.
Oh, it can be tough. It can.
Scary, too.
Oh, yes.
So have you guys ever written a formal business plan?
Yes, we actually have to for the Department of Education. We have to have a 5-year plan. And we, for our own self, we do a 1-year plan. And let's say it's flexible. There's no doubt about that. But we start, matter of fact, we'll probably start next month. And, we have to look at what races we're going to go to because we race the cars at different races and the NMCA, the NHRA, and then we have booths, and the vendors, what we call the vendors row at the races. And we start planning that, probably next month to get the whole schedule of what's going to go on, and then of course this year we're certainly, with the new building that's coming in there. So we do, Linda keeps up with all that. Brian puts it together. Linda is kind of the executor of it. And then again, as I said, the Accrediting Commission and the Department of Education, we have to have a 5-year plan that's updated every 2 years to see how close we are to our plan.
Okay, so you're having to actually check how on target you are with it and actually update it as you go.
Absolutely. In other words, even if you're doing more or you're doing less, you have to let them know about it. They just keep an eye on you, which I think is a good thing for the school industry.
Yeah. What's interesting about it is you think of a lot of people complain about having to write a business plan as, a time waster and they're hard to follow and, but when you have somebody actually requiring it and then you realize the value of actually doing it is there, it makes you wonder why everybody doesn't do it, right?
I don't. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I hear that all the time, but we actually have let's call it a business plan if you like, but for when we start a new engine, we sit down and where are we going to get the parts? How long is it going to take to do this? How long, when are we going to get that? When do we want to get this thing running? Where are we going first? We have a lot of plans. I can tell you that.
Do you involve your students in those plans?
Yeah, our students, they do, I would tell you 75% of the work on the engines here.
Okay.
Now we have obviously the instructors oversee everything, but I mean, they literally do the boring, the honing, the assembly, setting bearing clearance, degreeing the cams, and then, the instructor goes behind them or watches them while they're doing that. And so they're involved in everything. They go to the races with us. We've had as many as 25 of them go to the race. We'll put them in their cars, forward to a car, and pay for the gas and a hotel, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, it's the ones that stay the latest. That's one thing about the school I should mention. We have our structured class hours, of course, but we can be here till 2:00 in the morning. We can be here Saturday on Sunday. Working on the race cars. I mean, just, all the time, more like a race team than a school. And the ones that are here to do that, are the ones that get first shot at going to the races. We also look at the location of the race. Let's say we're going to Pennsylvania, Maple Grove or something like that. If there's students from that area and their parents will meet them at the track, they get, first choice to go to that race.
Okay.
We kind of work at, whatever's good, but the students are involved in everything we do around here.
Okay, so it's not a required part of their curriculum to go to the races, but they're in this industry to learn how to build race cars, so it's just something that the motivated ones are going to do and like to do, and you let them do it. Is that how this works?
There you go.
Okay.
We have to have, we need some brains. We're as far as I'm sure there has to be other ones, but we're one of the only vocational schools in the United States that we're not open admissions. Okay. In other words, if the check clears, you get in. Well, that's not the way it is here. We actually have what we call the Bennett Mechanical Aptitude Test. Okay. That was what the Armed Forces gave to the draftees, let's call them, to decide who they could put in the motor pools.
Okay.
Okay. So we took that government test and we give it to the students. Okay. And you basically have to make what a non-inner city high school graduate would score on the test. And we would like to have everyone here, but if you either have it or you don't, you're either a gearhead or you're not.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about,
exactly,
obviously, yeah. Right? And so that weeds out, it doesn't weed out more than maybe 5% or something like that. And we just explain to them, they can come take it again, whatever they want. I think we allow them three times, I believe you can retake the test. But, it just might not be for them if they have trouble with that test.
Okay.
So that gets us some mechanically inclined people here. And then what you need, okay, is motivation. A lot of them have it when they get here. Some of them do not. But we stay on them every day. I just preach to them about this. If this place is open, you need to be here. Obviously, some of them have to work. They'll come with their families, children, and they're at a disadvantage to the ones that don't. But we definitely, we keep them motivated. I can assure you of that.
How many employees do you guys have? I guess I should say faculty. Is that what they call it? Faculty?
Yeah, I get it, but they get a paycheck. Right. That's the part of it I know. I would tell you we have between 30 and 35. It stays around that number right there.
And what does it kind of range around? Are they mostly instructors? I mean, I'm assuming you have
my goodness, yeah. Well, see, let me see how I could say this. Our associate degree program, let me break it down that way. Our associate degree program, all the instructors there actually have to have a master's degree to teach. Okay. Mm-hmm. In our normal, machining course, okay, obviously these people don't have a master's degree in anything. Some of them do have associate's degrees. Some of them do have 4-year degrees, but it's not required. What they have to have, okay, is experience at what they're teaching.
Okay.
You see, so and then of course the administrative staff, they're, the bookkeepers, accountants, and all that stuff are strode all through the halls down here. We have the engine block machining course, and then we have the cylinder head machining course, and then we have the engine block combination. We have the CNC course, the EFI course, and then we have the associate degree program on top of all that. You can basically take any one thing, and some of the students take all of them.
Okay, so you can just take one class, provided you pass the kind of intro class or a test that you had.
There you go.
Okay, and you were kind of saying that your instructors, like for a machinist, you don't necessarily have a master's degree to teach. How does the Department of Education, do the rules shift for that kind of thing?
They do. I will tell you, and Kevin, I should know this, but I don't, but Linda does. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to have 3 or 4 years verifiable, working in the industry, doing whatever it is you're going to do, cylinder heads, blocks, EFI or whatever. They're pretty touchy about that. They are going to, if you can't verify it, you didn't do it.
Okay, and it's on you as the owners operators of Samtech to verify these instructors. It's not the Department of Education's.
Well, no, I'm sorry. It is. In other words, we do it. In other words, we know what they are, and that's why we want them, right?
Okay.
But they actually have to, before they can be employed here, they have to be approved by the accrediting commission for the Department of Education.
Okay, so the Department of Education takes that responsibility.
Yes.
Okay, it's in your best interest to vet them to make sure they are actually machinists, though. But
absolutely.
I mean, it goes without saying, if you're a specialty machine shop or a machining school, you're wanting the best machinists.
Thank you. Well said.
Okay. So you are heavily involved in this business, obviously. Do you spend your time doing just teaching, or are you managing the business as well?
No, I don't do much managing. We'll have a meeting, with the 2 kids and Linda and I, and we'll sit down if there's something big going on, But I don't really get into the managing the business. Linda does 99% of that.
Okay.
I'm very lucky. I just go out and play every day.
So it really is a team effort, and that part of the business, managing it, is taken care of by somebody.
Yes.
Perfect. And do you think the pay justifies the time spent?
Yes. We're okay. We're never going to be flying around in Learjets or anything, but we pay the bills and everyone's happy.
Okay. And you said you do your son does the advertising and marketing. And what do you find as being the most successful method to promote the business?
Well, looking at it twofold, I guess. Going to the races and having a car that they see that the crew are absolutely students. This is the school students working on the car, doing everything that's done on it. And a lot of the parents, they just can't even believe that's really happening, that their kids are going to get to do that. So the racing is a big thing. And then, of course, being at the, we have one of our Copo Camaros that we keep in the booth, and people come by, and that attracts them, of course, because there's so few of those things being built. And then they go, what is this? And the thing that we always get is from the dads going, wow, I wish there had been something like this when I was young, So the marketing overall is 75% racing. There's some TV ads now and then on Power Block TV. NHRA, does some stuff. But we're not really, I tell you, a real businessman would look at us and go, wow, you're underachieving. This thing could be a lot larger and you could do a lot more advertising. But we want to keep our quality of students really good. That's what helps us is obviously they have to get jobs when they leave here. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I was going to say that the second fold of this thing is the Engine Masters Challenge. Okay. We don't really attract a lot of students from that. We do some, now I have to be honest, but the big deal at Engine Masters is the shops follow it. A lot of the big shops follow this thing. and we are continually winning and runner up and stuff like that for the last 10 years. Okay. We've been going there, over and over, and always in the top 2 or 3 at the worst. Okay. And the shops go, hey, if they can, and this is not, I should mention, the Engine Masters is not for schools. This is professional engine builders. Okay. We just are a school that goes. Some people think it's just schools there. But with that being said, these shops, Kevin, they look at it and they go, these guys can win, finish second and third in this thing. They must know something to teach those students. So it really, for placement, it's much better than it is for recruiting, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, but having a good placement is good for recruiting, right? So
it is, but we see much.
It's good.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
and so we just, in other words, we feel that if you come by here and look at the place, we don't have the polished floors like some of these places do and all that. We are what we are. We feel that if you look at what we have, you talk to the students that are here, word of mouth from one student that gets here and calls his buddies back home and says, man, I love this place. I would say that's at least 15-20% of our placement is from word of mouth.
Okay. The Engine Masterclass, I want to touch on this a little bit more. Like you just said, you're a school doing something that all these performance shops are doing. And, that is a way to distinguish yourself in this market. And people you can build engines. And, these other big shops are hiring from you guys. That's like... because I'm not too familiar with the Engine Masters because I'm not a machinist, but I'm just trying to gauge that is a skill that shows machining and assembly, or is it a little bit of everything?
Tuning.
And engine design as well?
Yes. In other words, you have to choose the heads. They change the rules every year, different classes and stuff. I will say this without trying to brag or something, but in the last 10 years, 99% of the winners have been us, Tony Bischoff, or John Causey.
Okay.
In other words, I don't know of another shop, whatever in the U.S. Well, excuse me, and one of our graduates won one time, but we're right there at the top, and that impresses a lot of people. It really does. And again, more so the engine shop owners than it does students, because some of the students, have never heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when they get down here, we start on the Engine Masters. The rules will be announced at the PRI show, and we start then to run in October. We just got back 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Okay. And you guys almost treat it sounds like a final exam for the students. Is that?
Oh, yes. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they build the entire motor, dyno it, we babysit everyone, but, it's like their football game. You know what I'm saying? They work on it all season, and then you go to the finals, and here you are.
Is it a team effort, or are you picking one of the better ones that the students have put together?
Well, we've never, we talked about that, having different groups of students building one, but it takes so much work, and cylinder heads, they'll go through cylinder heads for 4 months, porting, flowing, CNCing, ruin those castings, buy another set, that we put all our eggs in one basket and go up there. Okay. And this year, like I said, we won. In the old days, there was only one class and one champion. I kind of like that better, but now we have 5 classes, all different combinations, vintage motors, nitrous motors, big blocks, small blocks, whatever. And we entered 2 classes and won one and runner up in the other one. So we're very happy with that.
Cool. And you mentioned PRI show. Do you guys display there or at the SEMA show? Are you there, or are you there as displaying your school? Is that a recruiting tool?
Brian will be at the SEMA show. He's got to do a press conference with NHRA about the rules and where they're going to run next year and everything with the factory shootout cars. So he'll be there at the SEMA. Linda and I are going to be busy vacationing, I'll be honest with you. And we may make it out there, we may not. But at the PRI show, we do have a booth there. And again, the PRI show, what we're learning there is that it helps for placement, because there's every shop owner in the country is there, and they go, oh, I heard about y'all, let me give you my card. Okay, I always need somebody, that kind of stuff. So we don't get many really new students from the PRI show, but mainly because they can't get in there.
Right.
It's a business deal only. But we enjoy going to it. We actually had our first SAM reunion 15, 17 years ago. We were actually in Columbus, Ohio. I don't know if you kept up with the PRI that long, but that would have been at least a decade and a half ago. And we had 3 of the students and myself met there, just to say hello and everything. And now we have a reunion, if you will, that, we'll have 150 employers and graduates at our PRI reunion now.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. We have a place rented out, a restaurant, and we all meet there. And you guys, it sounds like you said you're not trying to grow the business too big, and you're trying to keep the professionalism very high and the quality of the students very high. So in my opinion, it sounds like you're doing the opposite of higher education, which has gone to pump them through as fast as you can, and then none of them get jobs when they're done with like a bachelor's degree or master's degree, right? That's like what you think of like when you go to like college. But you guys have, from my understanding, very excellent job placement when they're done with your course. Is that correct? Absolutely. I'm glad you said those things, because I can't, but there is a lot of what we call running numbers through. Our job placement, okay, we stay in the top 1% of vocational schools in the United States for the last decade. Over 90% we have some that come here, some of the older guys, that they don't go get a job. They're retired, they came here and they want to go play with their hot rods.
So they're doing it for fun, huh?
Yeah, and that actually counts against us on our job placement, and we tell the government about this and they say, tough, that's the way we're going to do it, But it's, we, at any given time, at the smaller shops, the shops that aren't in major metropolitan cities, we can't get our graduates to go there.
And that's because they can be drawn to the bigger shops at bigger cities.
Yes.
It's a good problem to have, right?
Oh, no, it is. Absolutely. I mean, it's Kim gets hollered at, and one of them came up to me at Engine Masters 2 weeks ago. And he says, hey, I call y'all and I can't ever get anybody. And he's up in Fargo, wherever, North Dakota or somewhere. And I just said, I'm, if we get somebody from that area, maybe I can get somebody to come up there. But, nobody's going to go up there, and he's not going to pay the kind of money that the bigger shops do anyway, and he's in the middle of Antarctica as far as we're concerned,
Yeah.
And so, but we try, we do try, but that's a good problem to have. Okay. It really is.
Can you touched on the classes you're teaching. Can you tell us about the program you have put together and, what is the end goal for most students? Or is it an associate's degree that is the end goal, or is it just to kind of learn how to machine engines?
I'd say the associate degrees, they only would make up 25% of the graduates, I would say. Okay. Some of them come here and only do blocks. In our industry, Kevin, the shop's kind of divided up. The cylinder head guys do cylinder heads, and the block guys do block guys. They do blocks. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they'll come here. A few will come here only to do cylinder heads, a few to only do blocks. But I would say 80% take both courses.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you throw in the CNC. to get into the CNC class, you have another test to take. Okay, you cannot go into that one because obviously there is some math concerns in there.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
And
we
very
give
expensive
them
machines.
yeah, there you go. Okay, so if you can pass that test, then you can take the CNC course. Now, the interesting thing about the CNC course that we kind of thought about it, but let me tell you, I would say 30%, a third of our CNC graduates aren't in automotive. Okay, they'll be in medical or oil field. Okay, because it's all just a piece of metal, after you graduate from there. The EFI course, okay, we've only had one class graduate so far. Okay, that one you have to have your head screwed on straight because we get into the actual wiring of the car. It gets pretty in depth, and obviously the tuning and it's 6 months of EFI. It's not one of these 4-day, 5-day courses or something. They don't learn just to tune on the computer. They learn the troubleshooting, how all the sensors work, literally just straight wiring on the car and the different systems. It's definitely, it's a full 6 month. It's not for the faint at heart.
And it sounds like you're looking for people that are experienced in cars, and at least a little bit for that, because obviously, like I tune cars, and I understand that 75% of what I do is fixing problems with the car, not actually tuning them. And those are things you kind of learn by experience. And so you're looking for people who are familiar with cars at almost a higher level to be attending that class. Is that correct?
There you go. Yes, we need them. If you're a graduate from our other courses here, you can go straight into EFI if you can pass the test. Okay. If you're coming to only take the EFI, you're going to get vetted. What have you done? I don't know if this is the right way to, politically say it, politically correct, but we can't have them slowing the class down.
It's perfectly okay to say that, I guess.
Some way.
Okay.
Yeah. We wish them all the luck in the world, but, if you're a little behind on your basic skills, you have to work harder than the rest of them.
How long are all the other classes?
Well, let's see. The block is 9 months. The cylinder heads are 9 months. If you take both of them, obviously it's 18 months. If you add the associate degree, you'll end up here for 2 years. CNCing is 7 months on top of that. And then the EFI is 6 months on top of that.
And I've got to ask with the CNCing, I mean, I don't have a CNC machine, but I know all too well how expensive those tools are. Is that something that, like, how do you teach somebody to use those machines without breaking, like a $500 head on those every single time, right?
You don't. The machines are so sophisticated now that they stop a lot of it themselves. Okay. In other words, if you program something in and, they already know where the coordinates are, right? A red light starts blinking and a screen comes up and goes, hey, dude, this isn't happening, But seriously, they are very sophisticated today. And do we break tooling? Yes, but not a great amount. Okay. We really don't.
And is that something that the machinist manufacturers push people to attend your class for? I mean, that would make sense to me. If they make a CNC machine, you want qualified people to use them, right?
Yes. In other words, you can, we're a Haas CNC approved CNC center. We're the only vocational school we know of in the U.S. that we actually do work for NASA. The University of Texas does, Rice University does, Texas Tech does, and the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. It's really, really a neat deal. Nothing we make for them is ever going to the moon or Mars or whatever, okay? What we are allowed to make are things for the training vehicles, You know, the Orion, if you're familiar with that, that's
Yeah.
the one that's going to Mars.
Uh-huh.
We build stuff for it for the training vehicle. Okay. You see, the stuff that's really going to Mars, the dirt that they're going to make the aluminum out of is certified. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
But we're really fortunate. The engineers come here, and we get an astronaut about every couple of years to come. They have to come with a handler, and oh my goodness, but they're just something really special.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that we go down. If when we're down there, we're downstairs with the mock-up vehicles, and as things are being assembled. And if you take the tour of NASA, you're up behind the glass. You'll look down on that, and our students are down there.
Okay.
You know, we're in the Orion mock-up.
Okay.
I mean, literally.
Very cool.
Yeah, and we make them all kind of brackets and armrest, and just to them very simple things that. But it's a really neat deal. They're really good to us, and we do save them some time, stuff that they don't want to, just, I hate to use the word, but mess with,
Uh-huh.
Okay, and our relationship with them is going great.
So they send over drawings and you guys cut them out, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they've also supplied us with some software that was unbelievable. The public doesn't have this stuff. Oh, it's some really neat stuff.
You guys are obviously, since you're a school, you get to work with Snap-on or Matco or Mac Tools, or all those people like to, they're drawn to your students because they're the people going to be buying tools. Does that same thing apply with the machines? Like the Haas CNC machines, is that something that they look for students to use and to sell them in the future? Is that something that happens ever?
We get a discount. We don't get any free ones, but Rottler Manufacturing, that does a lot of the hones, the boring bars and everything, we just bought a big group of those, and because we're a school, we get what they call an educational discount. Mm-hmm. And because if the students learn on it, and then they go out there in the shop they go to work for has something else, and the student says, hey, my Rottler boring bar was way easier and faster than this thing, you might want to look at them. That's, their reasoning.
Okay. So they're using it as a kind of a seed for, the new machinists that are coming up into the industry.
There you go.
Okay. And how do people get in touch with you to, if they want to attend the school, who do they go to?
Well, if you just call here, okay, if you call the school, you'll get sent, you're saying, hey, I need information on the school. They'll send you to the recruiting department. Admissions, is what we call it here. Mm-hmm. You'll go there and they'll answer your questions and send you a package of everything. And the phone number is 713-683-3817. Okay.
And for companies who need machinists trained, they can just get a hold of you the same way?
Yes, and they'll be sent to Kim, my daughter.
Okay. And
our website is samtech.edu.
Okay. So I want to take one more break here, Judd, before we finish this thing off. The goal of Do It For a Living is to give you insight to how others have become successful in this industry. Another thing we created to help with this is our Essentials of Operating a Shop seminar. This new class from EFI University is a one-day management seminar to help aftermarket automotive shop owners operate their business more efficiently. We cover various topics including employee management, accounting, marketing, purchasing capital equipment, and many more. For more information, go to EFI101.com and check out the Essentials of Operating a Shop page. And be sure to use coupon code DIFAL for $50 off when you sign up. Okay, I've got Jud Massingill from Samtech here with me, and we're going into the last section here of our interview. I want to touch on something that you struggle with in business, and how do you deal with it?
I tell you what just disappoints me, and I get upset, is some of the younger students that aren't motivated. We sit down with them and we say, hey, what do you want to do with your life? If you don't want to do this, you've got to do something, go do something else. But I just hate seeing, and some of these students are very bright, but just they don't have motivation, and that bothers me more than anything else in this business is when we run into that.
And what's especially difficult is, I've done racing, and not at the NHRA level, but we do NASA road racing and stuff. And It's endless hours, like you work crazy, crazy hours up to the race time, and then you go out and you spend the whole weekend, fixing cars and making sure they're running right. And at the end of that, like you get some satisfaction of the car that, won or did well, or even if they break, you still like, oh, we put in a good effort. And it's very hard to teach somebody that it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. And in order to be able to get to that point, you have to put the time in at school, right? That's kind of what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, again, we hope this is their passion that they want, but I'll tell you, the motivation is as important as the intelligence. There's no doubt about it. You have to be motivated. We have a lot of students that have opened their own businesses. We actually have some that have that met at the school here and are now partners in a business. But I tell every one of them, I mean, when you start, if you don't want to work 80 hours a week, 80 hours a week, okay, there's no use trying to start a business. You
Right.
better be ready to work hard. And you're really, I tell them, if you buy your new equipment and everything, you're going to put it on a 5-year note, and you're really making those big payments. You're not going to make any money to speak of for 5 years.
Right. Exactly.
But once those payments are gone, okay, then you can start keeping a little money. But if it was easy, everyone would do it. That's how simple it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to have that motivation.
Okay. And what is your guys' 1-year plan for the business?
This year's the building. That's what we're doing. We're going to see if we can get this. We'd like to break ground in the next 60 to 90 days.
And that's obviously a pretty big investment.
I will. Yes, at my age, I sure had second thoughts about this, but the way I look at it, if the banker wants to give us money, he must know more than I do.
All right. What do you have for a 5-year plan? Obviously to fill the building that you're building, right?
I could see myself and Linda, okay, not being here during the summer. Okay.
How old
that's
are you?
what I could see. I am 66 years old, and Linda's 64.
Okay. So you would be close to a retirement anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
But I couldn't, the terrible thing about it, and everybody says, well, you're doing well enough, you can retire and you can hire somebody to replace you, and that's true, but what would I do? There's just so much golfing I can do. There's so much fishing I can do, I just, I really like going to work every day.
Yeah, you wind up being the guy who comes into the building and hangs out with everybody, right?
There you go. In the old days, when I had the engine business, my engines were my egos. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yep.
And today, my graduates are my egos. I'm so proud of them when they get out of here and they go get a good job or they open a business. That's a big thing to me.
I've had the same problem. And so my cars have always been my ego as well. And I'm really proud when they go beat somebody, and I get really hurt when they break or blow up or whatever it may be, right?
It's tough.
So we like to take action on Do It for a Living. Can you suggest an action item that our listeners can take away that they can use to improve their situation?
I don't know exactly what that question means, but again, I would fall right back to you can't let you're going to run into problems, and how you deal with those problems is going to be what makes or breaks the business. The easy stuff everybody can take care of, but you can't get into this, down mode where everything's going wrong and golly gee and all that. Sit down with an open mind, look at what's going on, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then say, okay, you make a list. Here's what I could do to help this problem, okay? And obviously you start with the simplest or cheapest one, and just work through them. But it's not for people that give up, that's for sure.
Awesome. That's perfect. And so next we got our quick answer question here. So just whatever comes to mind, just kind of say it. Can you tell us a game-changing product that you've seen in the last year?
I see the evolution of the EFI stuff is becoming unbelievable. The self-tuning part of it is one of the main things.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see as just absolute incredible. Our equipment that we're working on today compared to just, 10 years ago is unbelievable with all the CNC stuff going on.
Okay. What kind of software are you guys using daily? And this could be anything from running the business, teaching the class, or even what you use for the CNC machines, anything, SolidWorks?
The CNC machine, we have 2 or 3 different ones. We have SolidWorks. Our main one is Mastercam. Mm-hmm. And then there's a small one that I'm not even familiar with. But whatever we find that's the latest, okay, we buy the license to that.
Okay. And do you use a smartphone, or do you have any favorite apps that you use daily?
Oh, that's terrible. But the news app is about the only one I use.
Okay. And what's your favorite shop tool?
Oh, if I had to do something all day long, I would assemble. But if we got on a machine, I love the boring bar.
Okay.
I like the boring bar in the home.
Okay. And what are you driving right now?
A Suburban.
Okay.
Unbelievable vehicle, 5.3 liters. I've had a Suburban. We tried to figure out the other day since about 1982. And, I had all the big block ones that were ever made, but this is a variable cam timing 5.3, and it would outrun any stock 454 Vortex Suburban I ever had. Gets 21, 22 miles to gallon on the highway. Just, rides like a Cadillac. Of all the Suburbans I've had, I told one of the guys at Chevrolet at the Dallas race, this generation of them is a much larger step than any of the other ones.
Okay, so they're really pushing the engine tech quite a bit.
Oh, it is. The whole car is really, high tech. I have a Viper, sports car that I drive. Everybody asks me why not a Corvette, and I don't really know that, but I just kind of like the Viper being different, and that's what we cruise around in. Linda has an Escalade, and that's about. Oh, we have a '57 Chevrolet that made Hot Rod Magazine last year on the Hot Rod Powered Tour. It's an LS powered '57 2-door Bel Air. Makes about 530 to the tires. I drive it about 2 or 3 times a month.
Cool. So you guys have a little bit of everything. You have fun cars. You're not just rolling around in an SUV. Okay.
Right. And then too many drag cars. I can tell you that right now.
What do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
We always have to worry about, regulation coming out of Washington. But I talking to some very smart people, we've been having to worry about that since the late 60s, when General Motors took their little hiatus in performance and everything. I think we're going to go on forever. Let's say we discovered that if we really hit these batteries, I believe that electric's going to be the thing. But already are there people hot rodding the electric? We have to call them motors versus engines.
Right.
But let's say that did come about. We could still build hot rods for the next, 30 or 40 years.
Right. You're still building engines for cars that were made 50 years ago. So
guarantee you every day. Okay.
And how do we connect with you and your company?
The School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, 713-683-3817 or samtech.edu.
Okay. So, Jud, I really want to thank you for taking some time to share your story with us.
Kevin, I've enjoyed it. I really have.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the